It is my great pleasure to give a warm Adtech welcome to our opening keynote, Marvin Chow, Director of Marketing, Tatsuya, Marketing Director, Adobe Systems. Everybody, please join me in welcoming Marvin. Please go ahead and sit down. I'm just going to wander over here and tell you a little bit about what we're doing today. We have a really special treat for you. What we're going to do is we're going to have about a 30-minute presentation from Marvin. And what Marvin's going to do is tell us about how Google sees the future, what Google sees for 2020. Google has never shown this on a public stage before, so we're really honored he's going to talk to us about it today. Then Ito-san and I are going to interview Marvin, and then we're going to ask you for questions. So this is an unbelievable opportunity for you to hear what Google thinks about the future, but also to ask them how that relates to you, to Japan, to your business. Marvin comes to us with a very illustrious background. Listen to this. He's responsible for all marketing endeavors for Google Inc. in Japan, Greater China, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia, and India. He has 15 years marketing experience, coming from Reebok, Nickelodeon Online, and he was formerly Director of Marketing for Nike here in Japan, in Korea, and Greater China. So, pretty awesome background. I get to interview with Ito-san. Okay? Ito-san is a woman who started her career as a systems engineer. Okay? I imagine a few of you can relate to that. She started that career at IBM, and partway through her career, she decided to change to become a marketer. It's a rather unusual shift, but I think more and more people will take that shift. Ito-san was responsible for the successful launch of IBM US here, and after that, she moved to Adobe. At Adobe, she heads up a team of over 40 marketers. As Marvin takes you through the Google vision for the future, it's a vision where everything is digital. It's entrancing, it's enlightening, and it's enticing. And I urge you to consider the implications for you, your family, your company, and for all of your countries. When Google speaks, we all listen. We are honored to have Google share their vision for the future here. What a way to open the show. Marvin, what's the future hold for us?
Thank you very much. No pressure there. It's a very low bar intro. Thank you very much. I just want to say a couple things. One, as an official spokesperson for Google, we are not actually rewiring anybody's brains. This is of your own free will. This is when you use Google, you choose. We're so happy you do, but we are actually not doing anything like that. The other thing I want to say is I want to congratulate everyone for making it out of the room. I think this is probably the first time I've seen this many agency people up at 9 a.m. So I'm sure many of you are coming from the office. So congratulations, and thank you very much for making it. I do want to thank Susan and the Adtech group for having me. It really is a great honor to be here this morning and talk about the future of digital. I also want to thank Adtech for having this wonderful event here in Japan for the second time. I think it's really a testament to how important Japan is to the global digital market and what the real opportunity can be. I mean, Susan talked about the growth curve of Japan digital, and some of the other countries on there, like China and South Korea, really outpacing Japan. I take that as a competitive challenge of can we embrace new technology and can we innovate not only in the work that we do, but in how we do it, how we build our teams, and how we build new business models. And that's what we'll talk about today. So in looking at preparing for this opening session, we wanted to kind of set the stage for you guys, like Susan talked about. We wanted to set the stage of what would a digital future look like, and how would it come together? What are the pieces? How will people begin to interact with digital at a new level? And hopefully, through this presentation and the other presentations throughout the day, we'll be able to create some thought-provoking discussion. We'll be able to figure out how we can work together to really bring Japan, again, to the forefront of marketing and technology. So to kick it off, I do want to start with a video.
A road diverges in the desert. Lexus. The road you all jump into is the one less traveled. Should I
So this is not quite what the future will look like, but I think in some ways it gives us a really good idea of what could be possible. For those of you that have not seen this clip, it's from a movie called The Minority Report, starring Tom Cruise. And it depicts a scene where the character, John Anderton, is walking through a subway station, and brands like yours, are serving up personalized ads based on his preferences and a retina scan. Now, when I first saw this in 2002, it was pure science fiction. I think the thought of, an advertiser scanning my eyes to serve me an ad was a little unnerving. But for better or worse, as I stand in front of you here today, I think this reality is much closer to what our future will look like over the next 3 to 5 years. But it does not come with challenges, and it does not come with hurdles that we need to overcome. And that's some of what I want to talk with you about today. But before we get to what it's going to be like, we do want to set the baselines, talk about the basics. What is digital? How does a company like Google define digital? So the first thing I will tell you is we do not define it as online. Online is fantastic, and it's a great delivery mechanism for a lot of pieces of content. But for people at Google, digital is much more than online. And really, we break it down very simply as having two very simple but very defining characteristics. The first is interactivity. Whoops. The first is addressability, apparently. So, addressability is the opportunity or the ability for us as marketers to really not only target audiences with our brand's message, but to give our brands context and to give our brands relevance based on what we know about consumers, based on what they like, where they live, where they shop, where they're going. All of these things should play a role in how we begin to target our digital advertising. Also, interactive was the first point. Interactive was the magical promise of digital 15 years ago. The opportunity for a consumer to vote, to make a decision on whether they like something or whether they don't like something by taking an action has been the appeal of digital from the beginning. Whether it's a swipe of a SIGA card, whether it's tweeting on your iPhone or clicking on your mouse, digital communication has always sought to provoke emotion through action. And we shouldn't get away from these things because these are the core fundamentals of what we believe digital should be. It's the perfect balance of interactivity and addressability. Now, whether that's a mobile phone, a tablet computer, a digital TV, a mobile web app, it doesn't matter. Having the right balance of interactive engagement and addressable targeting makes digital the opportunity for brands like yourself to connect with the right consumers with the right context. And I think that's where the power really comes from. So now let's talk about the opportunity, right? So Susan talked a little about the market size. We look at the total advertising market today globally at $550 billion. Now, about a third of that comes from North America, and just under 10% comes from Japan. But Japan is still the leading number 2 advertiser worldwide. Of that $550 billion, less than 15%, 1/5, is influenced by digital marketing. 15%. That's just under 15%. That's $3 billion. I think that really shows where we can go. And what we see as Google, within that 15%, the world's biggest, largest advertising agencies are actually spending less than 15%. They're dragging the number down. They're spending less than 15% on digital marketing around the world, which really highlights the opportunity. Because if some of the largest advertising agencies around the world were to begin to take digital and embrace it, we can begin to drive this number further. And that's why we're here today. That's the hope. Over the next couple of years, over the next 10 years, we see two very distinct, widely acceptable trends coming. The first is that the total advertising market for globally is going to double about. It's going to go from $550 billion to about $1 trillion by 2020. That's a CAGR of about 10%. Not completely unreasonable, given what's going on in the marketplace today. What's more interesting, specifically for the people in this audience, is that digital, the amount of media, the amount of budgets that will be influenced by digital will go from 15% today to what we believe is predicted to be over 50% in the future. 50% of $1 billion. Now, I'm not a math genius, I'm a marketing director, but that's $500 million. That's amazing. That is the size of the total advertising market today. That's where we can be sitting. And I think that's the point of reference you should be thinking about as you plan for the future. If the digital market today, if the digital market in the future was the size of the total ad market today, what would you do? $500 million is also double the size of the GDP of Singapore. So imagine how much opportunity that brings to the marketplace. But with that, the translator catch up. Well, how are we going to get there? $500 million, right? So how are we going to grow this industry in a meaningful way? We really break it down into three simple key drivers. The first is technology. Are we going to have the technology? What are the tools that are going to be available to make this digital marketing future a reality? The second, economics. Is it going to be profitable? Is it going to be profitable for agencies? Is it going to be profitable for advertisers? Is digital marketing going to bring in the revenue? And third is society. This is probably one of the most important ones. It's the most simple, but it's the most important one. How fast and how much will everyday consumers embrace a new digital future? So I'm going to walk in, I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of these, and we're going to dive in. Technology. Now, I was lucky enough to start working in digital in 1995. I'm really dating myself at this point. Back then, since then, the pace of technological change has been phenomenal. I mean, I remember in 1995 when I got on the internet, I think punch the monkey banner and then seeing a painting from the Louvre on your home computer was the coolest thing you can do. And now I moved to Google, and the things that people complain about are my house, the resolution of my house on Google Earth isn't quite good enough. It's not clear enough from the satellites you guys have in the world. That really shows how far we've come as a digital society. But in addition to all of this innovation, all of this computing power, all the things that Moore's Law talks about, we think there are actually two overriding themes that will shape our digital future even more. The first is cloud computing. Cloud computing is really the birth of the internet. It's the foundation of what the internet is made of. It's also been a technology that has given birth to tons of companies around the world, including Google. One anecdote, in the slide that Susan showed in magazine covers, where the Fortune cover is Will Google Fail? The title you had is Traditional Companies, right? So that's what the internet can do. The internet can make you a traditional company in 10 years, right? That's the pace of innovation that we're talking about. But cloud computing is a phenomenon which we at Google love, because culturally, we are seeing a massive shift in a PC-centric view of the world. The days where everything you have, all your information is processed and stored on a single PC, we think are coming to an end. Cloud computing allows you to have all your data, all your content, all your information stored in the cloud, making it accessible from anywhere. It's like having an ATM on every corner. I think, in addition to that, cloud computing is not just about taking stuff you made on your PC and then uploading it to the cloud so you can get it. The future of cloud computing, or the beginning of the future of cloud computing, will be about creating new services that people thought previously were not possible. How is that? Quite simply, a supercomputer, much more powerful than your standard laptop. Right? So, if you think about it, every time you do a search, you're using a supercomputer, which is why it only takes like 0.2 seconds to get what you're looking for. Every time you're sitting at home listening to streaming music, you're using a supercomputer. This presentation actually was built on a browser through a web service called Present. No software required. It was built 100% in the browser. It's hosted in the cloud. So in essence, right now, I am using a supercomputer. Feels very good. But I think the future... Ooh, I'm going to go back. Ooh, I can use. So I think one great example of cloud computing is how you can use the power of the web, the power of supercomputers, to actually crunch large amounts of data and create new opportunities. And one of the software technologies that is being developed now, which could have a huge implication around how marketers do marketing, is being developed right here in Japan. And it actually brings that Minority Report picture a little bit closer to what reality could be like. Let's take a look.
In the world of advertising, you look at the ads, but soon they'll be watching you. It's a future imagined in the 2002 movie Minority Report. Cameras capture and read Tom Cruise's face and customize ads for his character pop up. That future is now. This billboard sees you, scans your face, then pulls up an ad you'll like. Here's how this works. When you walk into the ad, a camera captures your image. The computer figures out if you're a man or a woman and your age. Meanwhile, an age and gender-specific ad rolls. This shows that I'm in my 30s and I'll like seasonal pasta. The computer then determines how interested you are, how long you stay. That data is then recorded for the company. ABC engineer Junko Amagai says the facial recognition technique.
So, that's pretty cool. It's pretty scary, but it's pretty cool. I'm not really sure how the supercomputer matched seasonal pasta with a woman in her 30s, but that's your guys' marketing problem. But I think the idea that we, as marketing people, can be getting real-time feedback and optimizing based on facial cues of how people are looking at our advertising really makes you think, what is advertising going to be like in the future? What is a billboard possible of? What is really out-of-home advertising anymore if we are engaging with people at such an advanced level? I think those are the types of questions which we will begin to talk about. Sorry, we're kind of, on the fly demos. Another great example of technology is Google Translate. Now, I'm sure many of you in this room have used Google Translate to get vital information off some foreign web page where you don't understand the language. And I think it's a tool that's loved by many. Google currently translates about 160 million pages a day, which proves that we're unlocking a lot of information. But how do we take that further? What if Google Translate came to your mobile phone through voice? What would that start to look like? Let's take a look at a very, very rough demo of what Google Translate could look like on your mobile phone. I'm going to try to go live here.
So I can just click on it and get directions. So let's think about what happened here. So first of all, my phone is with me and it knows that I'm in Berlin, so it knows to search here. Secondly, there are thousands of pages on the web about the Pergamon Museum, which obviously talk about the Egyptian art that's in this museum. So all that Google has to do here is relate and connect all these pieces of information together and come up with a magical answer like, sorry, enjoy that. Let's talk about another cloud computing application. This is one of my favorite demonstrations. It's called Google Translate, which Eric also mentioned earlier. So the Google Translate app that's available today from Google Apps in the Android market allows you to type or even speak a phrase in one language and then have it immediately translated and even spoken back to you in one of 50 other languages. So that's pretty cool and you can try it out. But what I want to do today is I actually want to show you a preview of a feature that we've been working on for a little while. It won't be out for a few months. It's called Conversation Mode in Google Translate. And for that, I'm going to invite my colleague Kai Overbeck on stage to help me out. Please keep in mind this is experimental, so it may or may not work perfectly. Nice to see you, Kai. Hold on. Yes, that's right. So,
We're in Germany.
I know, yes. So, Kai, I'm a tourist, and you're a salesman at a local shoe store here in Berlin. So we're going to start conversation mode here. And you'll notice that I have a button in English, and you have a button in German. So our conversation would probably go something like this. Do you have these shoes in size 41?
Sie haben die Schuhe in Größe 41.
Welche Farbe?
Which cable?
Welche Farbe?
Okay.
Which cable?
Experiment.
Welche Farbe?
What color?
Black or brown would be fine.
Schwarz oder braun wäre schön.
Wir haben schwarz und braun.
We have black and brown.
Can you give me a discount if I take both?
Können Sie mir einen Rabatt, wenn wir beide nehmen?
20%?
20%.
So, that's a deal. Feel done.
How cool is that? You know, conversation translate in a phone. I mean, how many times would you need that? I mean, I lived in Japan, and I'm ashamed I can't speak Japanese nearly as well as Susan. I lived in Japan for 4 years. You know, and I think this would be something that would be vital to my everyday life. But when you talk about the power of supercomputing, that's coming from a phone, a mobile phone. The device is the conduit to the supercomputer. Think about how much technology it takes to translate voice in real time across languages. That is where the future of cloud computing can start to go. Now, for Google, we just like cool toys like this. So honestly, I have no idea how this application is going to be relevant to marketing in the future. But my hope is, I hear there's a lot of young entrepreneurs in the audience, that some of you have already started to think about how can we apply this technology to marketing. I think personally, this is probably a good startup waiting to happen for anyone out there. But the reality is, the pairing of supercomputers and mobile phones is going to be huge for the future. And it's going to be a force that cannot stop growing. In the future, with supercomputing, with cloud computing, a mobile phone will be more powerful, will be able to do more things than the laptop sitting in front of you today. And that's something that is unbelievable today, but that is where the future is going. So already, mobile web adoption is growing at an amazing rate. If you think about the mobile web or the mobile internet is growing 8 times faster than what the PC web did at the same developmental point 15 years ago. 8 times faster is the adoption curve of a technology like the mobile internet. That's mind-blowing. Now, half of all new internet connections in the world are coming from mobile phones. So 1 out of every 2 people getting on the internet for the first time is getting online from a mobile phone. Now, Japan has always been a mobile-dominated web society. We're probably one of the first countries where mobile web has eclipsed PC web. But at Google, when we look at other emerging markets like Sub-Saharan Africa, Indonesia, India, the mobile phone is becoming their primary and their only access to the internet, which really creates an interesting opportunity because they have the chance to possibly leapfrog existing mature markets in their use and approach to new technologies because it's all they have. And I think necessity, we know, is a key driver of innovation. Now, what are all these mobile phones doing? There's, tons of mobile phones in the marketplace. I'm sure somebody has a good number. What do people do with these phones? If you ask ComScore right now, 50% of the people that start the mobile web on their phone start with search, which is a good thing for us. It's very natural, but search for the mobile phone is different than search for the PC desktop. So naturally, everyone has a smartphone, anyone has an Android phone, you've done search, it's text search. You know, sticky thumbs, you type in some kind of text query, you get a response. And it works fairly well. I think even with things like voice translate, with voice search and translate, spoken search is going to be taking off soon. In Korea, where Android is just taking off, we're seeing massive increase in the number of voice search queries that they're doing in that market in Korea. But that's today. So what did the future start to look like? What about visual search? Every mobile device pretty much has a camera. Why couldn't you just search by taking pictures of stuff? Why do I have to know what it's called? Why do I have to figure out how to spell it? Why do I have to disturb my neighbor by saying it? Why can't I just take a picture of something and see how it works? Well, let's take a look at what that might look like.
Hi, I'm Arthur. I'm an engineer at Google.
Hi, I'm Shailesh, product manager at Google. We're here to introduce Google Goggles, a visual search application for Android phones.
Until now, the only option for web search has been typing or speaking. Now you can search by taking a photo.
Let's try this book. Just open Google Goggles, fill as much of the screen as possible with the object, and take a picture. You'll see the exact book match in the search results without typing or saying a word.
Another good use is on a business level.
Let's try mine.
Frame the text you're interested in well. Google Goggles will recognize the text and return a result. Now I can click to call Shailesh or add it to my company.
Let's go out and see what else Google Goggles can do.
We can figure out the title and artist of this painting.
Or landmark information. And when you're traveling places where you don't know the language, Goggles can translate text for you. Just take a picture, for example, of a menu. Visual search technology is still in its early stages. It works best on things like we saw today. But it doesn't work well yet on things like food, cars, plants, or animals.
Has this technology advanced?
Visual search for food. That's what I'm waiting for. You just take a picture of food and it will tell you what's in it. I don't know if it's possible, but I'm sure someone at Google is working on it. But so as technologies like this, like the supercomputer and the mobile phone get stronger and stronger, the mobile device becomes a more and more important tool or a communication vehicle for people like you in marketing to connect with consumers. With something like Google Goggles, the idea of SMS codes or QR codes actually starts to go away. Why can't you take a picture of a print ad? Why can't you take a picture of an out-of-home sign to get more information? Imagine what the implications are for retailers, whether it's Rakuten or Amazon or eBay. You can just take a picture of a product and then buy it. That's all you need to do. I mean, it takes shopping to a whole different level on your mobile phone. And I think that is what's powerful about what supercomputing brings to the world, specifically mobile. So, now that we've talked about the technology, when I come from Google, I'm pretty confident that technology is going to continue to go forward, that people like Google and like yourselves and other companies are going to bring more and more technology better and better every day. So the second key driver of success is going to be the economics. Can digital marketing bring in the dollars? Is that going to be something that really can drive a business? Now, history has shown that the formula for success is fairly simple. The value of adopting a new technology needs to be greater than the cost of deploying it. V is greater than C. I'm a very simple math person. In history, we've seen this a lot, right? So when printers went from black and white to color, clearly they saw that the value of color was far greater than the cost it took to print in color. The same thing in small businesses. Years ago, small businesses would primarily get their revenue, get their leads by listing in pretty yellow page books. In the early internet revolution, they bought banner ads on Yahoo. Now, they're buying search ads on Google. It's proven that over time, if you can prove that the value, that the return of a certain type of marketing is greater than the cost, people will adopt it. And I think that's a basic question that everyone needs to talk about, everyone needs to answer. But the real question in the room is, what is the value of marketing? How do you prove the value of marketing? Now, this has been the age-old question for everyone in this room, for every marketer around the world, and from my experience specifically, every CEO in the world would love to know, how do I prove the value of marketing? with technology and advances in technology around things like interactivity, conversion, trackability, technology is offering a little bit more insight around what works with technology, what doesn't work with what works with digital marketing, what doesn't work, and what the value can be. But there's still a long way to go. There are a lot of companies out there, including Google, that provide tons of tools that allow you to track how much money you're making, how you're converting, how many clicks you're getting. So I'm not going to talk too much about these types of tools. But I think the key message here is, for every new digital technology that comes out, we need to figure out how to value it. And part of that evaluation system is going to be determining what type of measurement data we have. And so as marketing goes more and more digital, we talked about 50% of the market being more digital. As the market goes more and more digital, the hope is that the more measurement data we'll be able to accumulate. And the more data we have, the easier it will be for marketers like yourselves to make decisions. Now, when we talk about data, Google's always there. We freaking love data. It's what we talk about. I've been at Google for a little bit. It's the basis of almost every decision and every conversation we have. The other thing that Google loves is solving big problems, like how to translate text into different languages over your mobile phone. So when you talk about data and solving big problems, I think we couldn't think of a better problem to solve than how to value digital technology, digital marketing. Now, I'm not going to say that we're there. I'm not going to say that we have the answers. We have a lot of tools. The other thing that we're working on is we're working on bringing our highly successful search metrics further. Now, anyone who's used Google Search knows that we do a great job of measuring, tracking, and giving you insights into how your keywords are working. We believe that we are bringing that intelligence, that measurability to other parts of our business, like YouTube, like the Google Display Network. So the type of tracking and accountability you see on the search side, we are bringing to the display side. In essence, at Google, what we try to say is that we want to bring the sexy back to display. So on the other side of the kind of push-pull financial economic equation is creative. And digital has really turned the approach to marketing kind of upside down. I mean, so many brands have taken a new approach to marketing. You know, they have the opportunity to create new services, to give access to new types of information that creates marketing that is so compelling, that is so interesting that people seek it out. People go find it, you know. And I think 10 years ago or 20 years ago, the idea of looking for marketing was very unknown. But with digital, we have that opportunity. We can create services that are compelling enough that consumers want to participate in them. And we see this all over the world. We see advertisers creating services and information which makes advertising no longer an annoyance. It makes it a useful resource for consumers. And this has been a founding philosophy of Google over the last 12 years. We believe every ad you see should have information that you want in it. And if that was a perfect world, every ad you see would have that information in it. And so when you think about kind of how display advertising is going to evolve and how you can take it and turn it on its head from brand entertainment to services, I want to give you a couple examples of that. The first example I want to talk about is Old Spice. And I'm not an Old Spice fan at all, similar to maybe a lot of other people, but I really admire the work that they did in the US for this brand, because it really created a very rare cultural shift around what Old Spice means in America. Like a lot of brands, they had a TV campaign, they ran it on TV, they ran it on YouTube, but when it really started to take off, when people really started to show interest in their ads, they kind of changed the game. Instead of just buying more media against a proven piece of creative, they wanted to build a relationship with consumers. They wanted to take this one opportunity for an old brand to connect when consumers were interested. So they went online, and they went to Twitter, they went to Reddit, they went to Yahoo, and they solicited questions for this guy, the Old Spice guy. He's kind of the hero of their campaign. And they took all these questions from everyday people, from celebrities, and then they responded to the questions through 180 personalized YouTube videos. And they aired them online. So let's take a look at one of these videos.
Alyssa Milanovic, are you flirting with me? Me? No. And I'm definitely not bringing you these fragrant flowers and a handwritten note from my heart to your doorstep via my bare feet running over the California mountains either.
So I think maybe taking Jessica's Twitter response one level higher. If the Old Spice guy or the Twitter girl at Air New Zealand can make her YouTube video to reply to her tweet, I think that's kind of where digital marketing can go. And with stuff like this, with this type of work, by investing more on engaging with advertisers, not only through media, but through creative, they saw a 50% increase in their overall reach as an advertising campaign. They saw their Twitter followers go up by 10 times. But most importantly, they saw their month-over-month sales grow over 100% from the month before they started the campaign to the month after they started the campaign. Now tell me a packaged goods brand, tell me a marketing manager or brand manager at a packaged goods company that can say, I'm going to double my business month over month with one marketing campaign. But this is the type of work that's really going to begin to engage people to care about brands. Like Jessica talked about. I've never seen an Air New Zealand ad. I've never even been on Air New Zealand. But my one impression about what type of company Air New Zealand is now from the one example she gave, which was very positive. So the more you embrace this type of engagement, the bigger opportunity we'll have in digital. The other campaign I want to talk about has been described as ridiculously addictive. And it's a little bit more engaging. So I'm going to have to play it. Hold on 1 second. It's for a brand called...
Shoot it! Come on! I can't! Just shoot it! Hey! I don't want to shoot this bear. Help me rewrite this story. Type anything you want with your keyboard. Then enjoy.
So clearly it starts out like this some random amateur video that's really loud in the beginning. But then it turns into this kind of interesting interactive experience around a brand called Tipex. So does anyone want to throw out a word? Anyone? Alright, I'm going. Hug. Kiss. Everyone takes a kiss. All girls take a kiss.
It would be fun.
Now, this to me, once again, not a Tipex, fan, never used the product, but this becomes a really interesting marketing campaign for me. Because, one, it's fresh, it uses interactive technology to a new level, and it really engages the consumer. It's not overly complicated. What did Tipex see? They saw 8 million views of the video on YouTube. Pretty good. They saw 11,000 comments, which, I don't know what kind of comments people are making around Tipex, but I think that's really great for their brand. But the most astounding figure that I saw is, in the first 24 hours that they uploaded this video, 43 million words were entered. 43 million entries in the first 24 hours. Now, TV's great, print is great, all media is great, but brands like Tipex, I think, cannot buy that level of engagement through using just one type of media. It's going to require this broader, holistic approach to how we want to connect with consumers. I mean, 43 million, it's astounding to me. And so as we look forward, work like this, work like Old Spice, work like Tipex, work from a lot of other great brands, these are continuing to blur the lines between entertainment and marketing. And it's something that, just like every great experience, just like every great brand has a phenomenal retail experience or a great customer marketing team, we really believe that in the future, quality branded digital entertainment will go beyond just marketing. It will go beyond just communication, and it will go to an extension of that brand. It will be a part of who that brand is and a service they offer versus just communicating about things. And I think in my previous world, you've seen things like Nike Plus, where they're integrating technology with product, with communication, with content. That blurs the lines of what our jobs are, because previously our jobs were just to communicate. But now if our jobs are to engage, are to connect, we really have to start thinking beyond what's possible today. So, the last thing. So we've seen that technology is pretty good. Translate, search, things like that. We've seen it in the business model. It's definitely getting there. We think we can make money off this thing. The last and probably most important piece around the success of digital marketing will be society. It will be about how quickly people embrace what we're doing. Specifically, a lot of the examples I've shared with you today rely on sharing data. You know, whether it's a user login, whether it's some kind of privacy information, but when marketing requires the sharing of data, it reinforces the notion that privacy matters. And this is a subject that we at Google take very seriously. We're not going to get into it too much today, but I think as a dovetail on privacy, it really talks to human behavior. How are humans going to accept what we want to deliver to them? Think about the facial recognition software that we saw earlier. It's an amazing opportunity for marketers to connect with consumers on a new level. It presents so many different opportunities that it kind of boggles your mind. And hopefully, some marketers in here will be able to apply something better than special pasta or seasonal pasta. But for all of us, with this great technology comes the opportunity that if the opportunity of this great technology will actually live or die based on whether society accepts it. Are people ready to have their face scanned in a public place and a billboard served up to them? My guess is probably not today, but in the future, we think it may be something that's going to happen. But I think the key message here is that human behavior and human acceptance of technology is going to be something that either makes or breaks the future of digital technology. History has shown us that over time, and with the emergence of every new generation, people become more and more comfortable with adapting to new technology. I mean, you go way back to the early days where a phone was considered a very intrusive device to have in your house. You know, to the point now where I think most of us can't live without a phone. But as marketers, as innovators, we really walk the fine line of what is innovation versus what is a blatant violation of someone's trust in technology. And that's one thing I do want to leave for you is that we have the opportunity to innovate, but we do have to be careful. We have to listen to what customers want. We have to be connected to their lives and know if they're ready to take on new leaps or new technological advances. Because they really hold the power of our future in our hands. No matter how great technology is, no matter how awesome the economics are, without acceptance of human behavior, our progress will be slow. You know, and I think one quote that we use at Google all the time that's kind of a maxim for our company is always defend the user. Because Google knows that if users reject, advertising on search, if they reject a certain type of technology, the progress we have as a company and as an industry will slow. So I really encourage you as leaders to take it seriously around how you listen to your consumers and what you think their level of acceptance could be. On a positive note, I think the opportunity when a culture loves something so much is huge. And I'll use YouTube as an example. Despite all the hurdles something like YouTube has, like who owns the copyright, how much bandwidth, how can they do this? Despite all the hurdles, YouTube has survived solely because people love YouTube. People love the brand. People love the fact that it's a platform for freedom of expression and free speech. And that's really the reason that it continues to thrive. And today is probably one of the biggest digital networks in the world. YouTube serves 2 billion videos a day. 2 billion videos a day. And every minute, 24 hours of new video get uploaded every day. 24 hours uploading per minute. If you say 60 minutes of YouTube upload time versus 16 years of television globally, YouTube has more content. That's the power of this medium. Not because makes a lot of money, not because the technology is great. YouTube thrived because people love it, people accept it. And I think that's one of the key things that we really have to recognize when we talk about the opportunity around digital marketing is how will society accept us? So, I'm kind of wrapping up. So hopefully you guys have gotten a good idea of what we see as the digital future, how we see it coming together. It's pretty simple. We break it down into a simple, but not that easy of a formula, right? So it's technology plus economics plus society equals a $500 billion opportunity. Now, over the last 30 minutes, we've showed work from brands all over the world. And you guys know better than I do of cool stuff going on. Brands will always push technology in terms of what digital marketing is capable of. And Japan is really no different in that respect. Some of the best creative in the world comes out of Japan. But when we start to think long-term, when we start to think about the future, I think we have to realize that we are on a journey. And this is just the beginning. We don't know what we don't know. When we look 10 years out, no one can predict what the future is going to be. Nobody has all the answers, including Google, though we wish we had all the answers. But the fact remains, we believe that digital advertising will fundamentally transform the relationship, the basic relationship that a brand has with a single consumer. And that is a very powerful thing to think about in the future, that your relationship with any brand in the world will fundamentally change. But it will not be easy. I mean, success will take true vision. It will take true leadership at every level. It will take people like you in this room learning, relearning, educating themselves, and having a vision of what their brand should be in the future versus what kind of ad should I be showing them today. So I encourage everyone in this room to really rethink how they're innovating in marketing. Are they taking risks? Are they testing stuff? I encourage you to challenge the norm. Go against the grain. Get uncomfortable being uncomfortable. That's my favorite part about working in digital and working at Google is you don't know what's going to happen the next day. And I think being uncomfortable with the unknown is something that's going to be very great. But what I would say is, whatever you do not get left behind because you are too afraid to change what was working today and embrace what is coming tomorrow. So we've done a lot of work as an industry, and I'm really proud of everything we've seen and everything we've done. But I think in the immortal words of a lot of good singers, we ain't seen nothing yet. Thank you very much. At least Google and the way they approach it is, Google has kind of a philosophy not to hire experts. Because experts in something today may not be experts in something tomorrow. And I think that the idea of just hiring really smart people is going to be something that is the norm in the future. And I think I've always been a fan of having diverse points of view. In every marketing team I've worked with, having people with different backgrounds and varying skill sets has been the key. And I think moving into the future, at least at Google, we have a passion for people who love to solve problems. And so I think that's the first piece, is hire people who would not naturally be normal for marketing. And I think the second thing is, that I'll say is, I think youth is a key component. Because, at our age, we carry a lot of baggage. Like I remember the first internet ad on Hotwire. I was there, I clicked on it, and I think that I have baggage. But I think when I talk to people, Google's an incredibly young company. When you talk to someone who graduated from Stanford last year, their perspective on the world is not my perspective. And I think that to constantly innovate, you need that renewal of energy and perspective that you really can only get from, the young people.
Okay, cool. Well, we have a great example on stage of someone who switched their career. So going from an systems engineer to marketing, he did maybe what Marvin suggested, is you went from something you knew really well to something you're less expert at. If you were giving advice to marketers in the room, what you learned from that they can apply, whether they're recruiting people or they're helping people switch from one department to another?
Well, in that case, I have engineers for many years, visiting customers, writing code, and doing the product management, and after 10 years, I realized I'm not enjoying my day by day.
So I thought, okay, I need to find out something I can enjoy every day in my life. And then I thought, oh, maybe it should be interesting. So, enjoy your life, enjoy your job. That's something that key. You can naturally transform your career. So that's what I experienced, and that's all the things that we did here.
Very nice. So for you, in terms of how your marketing function is structured, take us through that just roughly.
It is pretty much straightforward. So in corporate side, we have several business units aligned with main product lines such as Acrobat and Photoshop. And also those business units, there are product marketing team. They set strategy basically. And in parallel with those business units, there are corporate marketing. And we are belonging to there. And we are responsible for the whole planning and execution of the marketing programs. So basically, based on the business unit strategy, we are responsible for all the go-to-market.
Okay, and is that the same? Yeah, it's a lot. And I think, Adobe's an example of some of the multinationals where all marketing is aggregated under one leader and one perspective. At Google, when you're responsible for all marketing, how is it all marketing and how does it relate to product and so on?
I think, unfortunately, we don't talk too much about how our org is structured, but I think one of the things that really is great about Google is it's incredibly flat. And I think it's incredibly autonomous. So in terms of how we work, the independence is very high. One of the appeals when I first started working at Google was my boss, who was the global CMO, said, I will never tell you what to run in your marketplace. You will do what's best for Asia, Japan will do what's best for Japan. And so I think we really run on a philosophy. We run because we know what Google is, we know what we want to stand for, and so I think we're a little bit more independent. We're aggregated in terms of reporting lines and structure, and I think I'm a firm believer that our collaboration with people like product and people like PR is what really brings innovative marketing to bear. And so I think in that sense, it's really the world's largest startup.
Okay, so Marvin, Google is such a technology-driven company, and basically you were distributing a lot of new technology, and distributing those new technology to the market and watching if those are consumed by consumer. With that business model, what is the role of the marketing for Google, or how do you measure?
What is the goal?
Goal? Yeah, what is the goal?
How do you measure?
And how I measure? I think, we love to measure stuff, so we measure all kinds of things, with all kinds of data, how many people use products, things like that. So, I think like any good marketing campaign or any good marketer, we're measured on objectives. So if we're launching a new browser like Chrome, we're going to see, how many people use it, how many times it's downloaded. I think a lot of metrics like that. And I think beneath that, there's even more metrics of what is the implication of those that we look at Google. What was the first question?
Because, obviously, Adobe has product and services, and now we're on the trip as well. How are you measured?
Yeah, well, in case of Adobe, especially for Japan marketing organization, I'm fully responsible for the revenue generation as well as the brand building. So there are a lot of measurement as well, but basically I'm measured by revenue, I'm measured by brand awareness, so indications. So there are a bunch of things. So basically it's a business contribution in short order.
Okay, and I think that's for everybody in the room. We build brands, but we also drive businesses. So, the 500 billion. It's a 500 billion question. We've seen traditional models, especially in Japan, between brands and agencies. Those are embedded, deep, respected relationships. Now there's service providers entering the mix. And the role of traditional, untraditional, paid, earned. I think I was in Bali at iMedia a couple of weeks ago, and they talked about the four media now. Paid media, earned media, owned media, and shared media, right? What's free? Free media. Well, user generated. Let's throw that in there. Okay, so how as marketers do we need to shift? What skills do we need to go after that 500 billion and make sure, that becomes a reality and that grows our businesses.
I mean, I think, like I said, like earlier as marketers, I think that the skills that we have today are not going to be necessarily the skills that we need in the future. But I think, like we talked about earlier, I mean, things like how business models evolve, how brands approach marketing is going to change. And I think that Google, the philosophy is focusing on the user, right? And so if you look at a lot of the things that Google has done is we believe that if we can focus on the user and we can aggregate enough users to use the technology and use our product, we can do something with that. And I believe, like, if you look at whether you want to call it marketing, whether you want to call it product, whether you want to call it business, I use the Android example as a great example. And so our CEO, Eric Schmidt, talked about Android a number of years ago where he said, if I can get 1 billion people using Android today for free, I'll figure out how to make money on it later. Right now, Android is the fastest growing smartphone platform in the world. I think there's like 250,000 devices a day being activated. And he said, if I get 1 billion people using it, I can figure out how to make $10 off those people. We're going to have a pretty good business in one day. But I think focusing on the user, focusing on how they are going to interact with your brand or your product first, then thinking about what is the business sometimes. And I think sometimes that's a hard conversation to have with business stakeholders, but I think that's where the education, the relationship with senior marketing people like you need to have a strong relationship with their senior business stakeholders. Because it has to be clear, we're not on the same path, we're not on the same bus, we're not going to be going in the same place.
Yeah, so Susan, you mentioned that Japanese digital media spending will be growing only 3%, but Marvin, you said as a market we need to embrace the new technology, but apparently it seems kind of slow, the new technology, the adaptation in Japan. Do you see that difference? Do you see any difference how marketers avoid new technology in the program or execution, even not marketers, like agency or what's the difference?
I mean, I think, I'm not an expert on this, but when I look across my experience in Japan, I think because Japan has innovated so much within Japan, I think that honestly, people in this room, technology companies, are at a crossroads. I mean, as a mobile phone person, we talk about the Galapagos phones all the time. 90% of the market are phones that are made in Japan, only for Japan, and do amazing things. But is that the future? Or is open source platform the future? And we have a point of view, but I think it really comes down to people that run technology companies. What type of technology do they embrace? And I think it's really hard to say, but if you were to ask somebody, what is the vision of technology for Japan? I don't think we have an answer yet. And I think that it takes a lot of people like this, it takes a lot of senior people to start to give examples and show people, show brands what advertising and technology can do together. And I think only until then will we see it, because mobile, mobile personally is such a huge opportunity in this marketplace, to grow both digital marketing, both to connect with more consumers, to bring, all kinds of new interactions to consumers for brands, that it's amazing. But there's so many hurdles. It's so hard sometimes.
Guys, we were going to talk quite a bit longer. We have a lot more questions, and we know you have a lot of questions as well. But we kind of used up our time slot this morning. So I want to kind of conclude with a couple of comments. And I want to encourage you, I think you posted your email at the end of your presentation. We're going to be here for the next couple of days. Obviously, here in the conference, in the halls, at the networking parties, over in the exhibition. Feel free to come up to us, talk to us, ask Marvin harder questions, because I got quite a few and I'm not done with.
Ask her harder.
Thank you. So, from an opening keynote perspective, this is exactly what we wanted with Adtech is, coming to you guys, to the hundreds and thousands of people who got up early and came to join us, is, Google's vision in terms of mobile, in terms of the cloud, in terms of how society is changing. And specifically for us here in this market, and then for all the people who are here from other markets, that vision I think we need to really think through and embrace kind of what Marvin said at the end of your presentation, which is it is about experimentation. It is about being willing to learn. And if you don't mind, I'm going to borrow your closing comment as the first keynote for a 2-day conference.
Marvin